It was November 16, 1924, and everything was going great at this party right in the middle of the ocean. There were distinguished guests, food, booze, and everything a party needed. But just a few hours into the night, something terrible happened. Until today, no one can truly explain it. It was a high-profile scandal and the cause of a lot of rumors and speculations. The character, Thomas Ince, was a very successful American silent-era filmmaker who created one of the first standard movie studios. However, when he died in mysterious circumstances, his body was quickly cremated. Even though the official report claims he died of heart failure, rumors had it that Ince was shot and was just a victim of a nasty controversy. Was it really an accident, or is there something more sinister behind the death of one of Hollywood's most important pioneers? This video will delve into some of the nasty rumors from Hollywood. Some of them could get creepy and really shocking. Brace yourself! Jean Harlow wasn't allowed to get married. The Roaring Twenties saw actors and actresses, including Jean Harlow, succumb to restrictive contracts that allowed the studios to control both their careers and personal lives. In fact, Harlow's contract with MGM forbade her from marrying the love of her life, actor William Powell. The original blonde bombshell became one of Hollywood's biggest movie stars of the 30s, starring in films including Dinner at 8, Susie, Red Dust, and Libeled Lady. But her fame and fortune didn't stop her marriages from crumbling. When Harrow was 16, she married Charles Fremont McGrew III, a wealthy heir who was just a few years older, and the marriage only lasted for 2 years. But her second marriage was probably the most scandalous. The blonde starlet wedded MGM executive Paul Byrne, yet their union only lasted a mere 2 months because while Harlow was off filming the drama Red Dust, Byrne shot himself in their home, leaving a suicide note for his wife. In order to save the family-friendly studio from any controversy, MGM forced the actor to marry cinematographer Harold Rawson, which would only last 8 months. The cycle continued, and Harlow was getting ready for her 4th marriage when she received the shock of her life. The then 26-year-old, who was in love with William Powell and was willing to tie the knot with her newfound love, just couldn't go on with the plot because the studio believed it would ruin her bombshell persona. Errol Flynn's illicit romance with underage girls. The more you listen to this story, the creepier and weirder it gets. Reports had it that Flynn was far from being straightforward and involved in many things that would make your skin crawl. The Australian actor had a successful Hollywood career and a beautiful wife, and one would assume he would be content with his life. But despite how good his life was, Flynn took pleasure in hooking up with underage girls. Rumors even had it that he was hooking up with 15-year-old Beverly Adland, and the union wasn't consensual. But the teenager eventually fell in love with him, and their relationship, in her own words, was wild and fun. When these two unlikely couples first met, Flynn's career was not doing so great. He was in the middle of child support battles with his ex-wives, and even accused of inappropriate relations with 2 17-year-olds, Peggy Satterlee and Betty Hansen. Rumor had it that in a bid to boost his recognition and career in the creepiest way, he and Adland would pretend to be in a toxic relationship. He would pretend to beat her up in public, and she would use ketchup to imitate blood. The plan succeeded, and when people started talking about it, it brought the press back to his doorstep, just like he wanted. Does this sound a bit far-fetched, or could there be any truth to this? Let us have your thoughts in the comments. The devastating Hollywood suicide. The 9 white letters that spell Hollywood form one of the world's most famous cultural landmarks, and it has always played a significant role in the collective American consciousness since it was erected in 1923. But there's a sad story to it that no one seems to be talking about. Peg Entwistle was a stage actress and aspiring film star who launched a concerted attack on Hollywood during its thriving golden age. She landed a role in George Archambaud's high-profile thriller, 13 Women. However, a significant part of her performance was cut from the final movie, and the film, which came out only 1 month after her death, had little critical and commercial success. Peg was faced with a lot of challenges, and things couldn't have been worse when RKO declined to renew her contract, leaving her with no money and no backup plan. After facing years of tragedy and career disappointment, Entwistle reached a breaking point. On the night of September 16, 1932, the then 24-year-old actress left her uncle's home, went to the nearby Hollywood sign, climbed a maintenance ladder to the top of the letter H, and leaped to her death. 2 days after the tragic incident, a hiker discovered the tragedy and found a note in her purse that read, "I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain. P.E." Perhaps the industry was unforgiving and Entwistle simply sought an easier way out. The Mystery of Missy. Since Bring On the Empty Horses was published, Hollywood biographers have tried to uncover the true identity of the drug-addicted sex symbol Niven writes about in a chapter titled Our Little Girl. Only known as Missy, this studio-made star had the most beautiful body in Hollywood and was called the Boys Erector Set. Niven wrote that as Missy's looks faded and her career declined, she got hooked on pills from a doctor nicknamed Needle Ned. In his unsettling second chapter about Missy, Niven shares a challenging 3-day experience when he cared for her during a severe mental health crisis. He describes a difficult situation where a naked and agitated Missy asked for reassurance about her looks, ate only cottage cheese, and stayed awake without sleeping. So, just who was Missy? Well, speculations have it that the mystery figure was Niven's friend, Lana Turner, given the spot-on physical description and biography. Others believe the second chapter might have been based on Niven's experience with the troubled Vivian Lee, who had bipolar disorder and substance abuse problems. Whoever Missy was, her memory seemed to have haunted Niven for a pretty long time. The Fatty Arbuckle Scandal. The party held on Labor Day in 1921 is one that went down in the history of Hollywood because just a few hours into the night, something terrible happened. Until today, no one can truly explain it. It marked Hollywood's first high-profile scandal and gave rise to numerous rumors and speculation surrounding the characters Fatty Arbuckle and the beautiful Virginia Rappe. Fatty was a very successful Hollywood star, a comedian who pulled crowds from far and wide, so much so that he became the first comedian millionaire. Things couldn't get any better for his career until the unthinkable happened. At a Labor Day party in 1921, Fatty was with talented actress Rappe when, according to him, she began to complain of exhaustion and needed to go lie down. So, Fatty took her upstairs to lie down and catch her breath. A few hours later, her scream was heard, and when people rushed into the room, they found her lying on the floor. People speculated that the comedian tried to force his way on her, and when she refused, he took her life in anger. But he claimed he was in the bathroom when he heard her scream. Eventually, the case went to trial, and Fatty was held without bail in cell number 12 on Felony Row at the San Francisco Hall of Justice. After 3 long trials, Fatty was acquitted, but the damage to his career had already been done. Crazy to Marry was immediately removed from theaters and Arbuckle faded into history. The question remains, was Fatty responsible for taking her life, or was this just a case of identity gone wrong? Charlie Chaplin's obsession. Charlie Chaplin was a very talented actor and filmmaker, so much so that he was regarded as the greatest comic actor on the screen. But the modern times actor, who wielded considerable influence in the film industry for decades, was said to have a sadistic attitude towards these women. Yes, you heard that right. Some described him as a selfish, raging megalomaniac who treated his children and teenage wives with relentless cruelty. As if that wasn't enough, rumor had it that Charlie was obsessed with younger girls, and one of the first to experience this strange obsession was 19-year-old Edna Purviance. After their relationship fell apart, Chaplin grew fond of 16-year-old Mildred Harris 4 years later, whom he secretly married in October 1918. But the child actress couldn't cope with anxieties and erratic moods, so they got divorced in 1920. Charlie had a habit of swiftly moving on from one relationship to the next. This pattern was evident when he took an interest in a 12-year-old actress in his 1924 film The Gold Rush, and later pursued a relationship with 22-year-old Paulette Goddard. Thomas Ince, the man remembered by rumor. The death of Thomas Ince after his lavish 44th birthday was as legendary as some of the movies he produced. But if you're wondering who Thomas Ince is, it's okay if you don't know him. He was a man who did not mind being known because he worked behind the camera and was one of the biggest pioneers in Hollywood. Born into a show business family in Newport, Rhode Island, Ince went from a struggling stage actor to becoming the first film tycoon. He had an incredibly successful career, but when he was almost on the verge of bankruptcy, the American silent-era filmmaker tried to distract himself from his problems and threw a lavish 44th birthday. His very good friend, William Randolph Hearst, was so much in support of this idea that he decided to borrow Thomas his boat for the party. It was perfect. Thomas went ahead to invite a few people, including Hearst and Chaplin, who just wanted to have a good time. There were food, drinks, and a lot to make this party really remarkable. Sadly, this night turned ugly really fast. Ince was said to have suffered from indigestion after dinner, and it was so bad that they checked in with a doctor in Los Angeles. But the very next day, Tomo was gone, and the official report said it was a case of heart failure. But was it? The front page of the Los Angeles Times ran a headline that said, "Movie producer shot on Hearst yacht." This led to speculations that there was more than meets the eye. According to the rumors, it was not indigestion or heart failure, but Thomas was shot. How? Well, it was speculated that Hearst walked in on Chaplin getting a little frisky with Hearst's mistress, Davies, and in a fit of jealous rage, he pulled out his gun, aimed at Chaplin, and pulled the trigger. Unfortunately, he missed, and the bullet hit Thomas instead. Was this what truly happened? No one knows for sure, but Thomas was quickly cremated after his demise. On one hand, this could all be one big coincidence. But what if it was actually organized and planned? Is there any truth to the shooting rumors? Could there have been a cover-up? Your theory is as good as mine. Clara Bow was reckless? The early 20s were a very conservative period in Hollywood, but Clara Bow, the Hollywood it girl at the time, made it to the tabloids, and the nasties of rumors and speculations were spewed about her. It all started on November 10, 1930, when local newspapers reported Bow and Daisy had fallen out. It was far from a friendly breakup because Daisy allegedly walked away with many confidential files belonging to her former boss. These files contained a lot of personal information, and Daisy, having worked very closely with her boss all this time, knew some secrets that could ruin her. So after a while, Daisy began to blackmail Bow, and the actress wasn't having it. She sued her former secretary, but the move backfired horribly when, in court, all the secrets reportedly came out and the tabloids had a field day. It was speculated that Bow would sleep with anything and anyone, including having orgies with an entire football team, hooking up with married men, and even sleeping with a dog. Hopefully these rumors aren't true, but you never know. The fixer who buried Hollywood's worst-told secrets. You know those mafia movies where there's this one guy who could make problems magically disappear? No matter how big the problem is, a call to this guy makes it seem like it was never there in the first place. Yeah, this is exactly how Howard Strickling was in the golden age of Hollywood. Strickling was the head of publicity for MGM from the late 20s into the late 60s, and he seemed to care more about how actors and actresses were perceived than how they truly felt. Rumor had it that if anyone in the industry wanted to get a discreet abortion, Strickling was the go-to guy. He sometimes never even gave them a choice in the matter. This was because the studio was well aware of how actresses should be presented in the industry. Since these actresses had to maintain a perception of beauty, any pregnancy that could potentially tarnish their image had to be taken care of. And Howard was the guy who did the hatchet job so the studio could continue making money off them. According to reports, notable actresses like Judy Garland, Jean Harlow, and Joan Crawford, amongst others, had the fixer on speed dial, just in case they lost themselves while drunk at night parties. Howard, who was always on deck, would set up an appointment with a doctor humorously referred to as Dr. Kill Care. These movie stars would then have to withdraw into seclusion under the pretense of needing rest or undergoing an appendectomy. However, these were often code words for abortion procedures. It was a dark chapter in Hollywood's history. George Reeves' mysterious death. The name George Reeves might not ring a bell, but kids in the 50s would remember him as the man who played Superman in the TV series Adventures of Superman. However, his career was cut short on the morning of June 16, 1959, when Reeves was found dead in his bedroom, naked with a bullet through his head. The death of the first Superman is one of those American mysteries with many unanswered questions. You see, Reeves was 38 when he became famous for playing the role of the American superhero from Krypton. For over 6 years and 104 episodes, the actor smiled broadly in the iconic Superman pose and made special appearances to promote the hit TV show. His work on the show earned him fame as the original Superman. But all was not well behind the scenes in Metropolis because in the lead-up to his death, Reeves was in a complicated personal situation. While the Iowa-born actor may have been famous for being Superman, he was poorly paid. He found himself struggling for money, so he tried to quit the show after 3 seasons, but he was compensated with a raise, which still didn't cut it. And as if that wasn't enough, Reeves had engaged in a 3-year affair with actress Toni Mannix after breaking up with his wife, which now posed a threat to his life. Toni Mannix was married to Eddie Mannix, a notorious fixer for MGM Studios who was rumored to have mob connections. As shocking as it might sound, Eddie didn't have a problem with his wife having an affair, as he had his own extramarital affairs, but when Reeves broke his wife's heart, Eddie was pissed because he didn't want his wife unhappy. But Reeves was set to get married to Lemon only a few days before his death, and that was all that mattered. So on June 15, 1959, Reeves and his bride-to-be had just returned home by 11 p.m. after a boozy night in town. 2 hours later, 2 visitors, Williams Bliss and Carol Van Ronkel, stopped by for a drink. While Lemon was in for some action, Reeves came down, threatening to throw the visitors out if they didn't keep things quiet. It was then that Lemon's actions became truly strange. "He's going upstairs to shoot himself," Lemon said. A shot rang out in the room and she exclaimed, "See there, I told you, he shot himself." But the details weren't adding up. 2 gunshot holes were found in the ceiling as well as the one traced to his head. How could there have been 3 shots when the witnesses claimed to hear only 1? And how did he end up naked on the bed? Rumors had it that Eddie killed the actor for upsetting his wife, while others claimed he committed suicide. Well, Superman was dead, and there was no hero to save the day.